I hope this message finds you well. Sorry, I'm tapping. So there are a lot of conversations going on today. I don't know what the significance of that is, but it's just one of those days where I'm able to listen in, not even intentionally, so I don't even know how to explain that, but I have a window to conversations going on out there in the ether. And there's a lot of talk on, I did a video that's uploading now about limitation. And this seems to tie into that. So there's talk too. I'm overhearing a sermon being given. And I guess I could go into that, but I don't see the need. So I'm overhearing these sermons, which tells me that the message is directly from God. And the message coming through is one that may be given some time in what we perceive to be a future event. But because time is an illusion, it's in the field of potentiality, which is ever present. So I'm listening in on this today. This sermon was being given as I was driving. And the message from God was, let me try to connect with it again. He said, "Oh, my children, how could you believe that I would send any one of you to suffer and die for the upliftment of another or even the rest of you? Oh, my children," he said, "how can you doubt your worth? How can you doubt my message of truth, of your divinity and unchanging worthiness? Oh, my children, how can you doubt me?" And then, in the moment the question was asked, there was a download of information where the people were saying, "But Father, you have allowed this travesty and this devastation and this ugliness and this, killing, murder, etc., etc., etc." And he said, "Oh, my children, from my love I have given you my power that you use to create. And many of those things that you have created are beautiful and will live eternally, as do you. And many of those things that you have created have been cause for suffering and pain unto yourselves." And he said, I would say suffering to yourself and others, but that would not be the truth, for there is only yourselves here. Yourselves. That I found really interesting. So there was much reference to the crucifixion of Jesus, and I remember he said, "Oh, my children, the one you know as Jesus lives. Lives. How could you believe that the death and destruction of a human body, a temporary material form, a paper thing that has no permanence, how could you believe that the death and destruction of something so futile could result in anything, let alone the upliftment of ones who have never been unworthy?" And that point was made very, very passionately, because he said, right, it is because you believe that I have allowed, or I have created, death and destruction. It is because of this belief that you would think you could fall, that I would be willing to lose any one of my children. And in that message, there was a download of information where, without words, of course, the communication was, only that which is real is created by the Father, is created by God. Only that which is real, unchanging, permanent, without end. Things that seem to have an end, and I'm seeing the word temporal, so not just temporary, but it says temporal, are our creations. Not to say that they're bad, just means that they're not permanent. Now, I'm getting an objection here to that statement, and it is, there are things that we create that are permanent, that will be eternal, that are eternal. But it is not the things of this world. So I'm seeing more like connections that we've made, or possibly energies we have infused to allow them to take on certain forms. And it doesn't even mean like a solid form, but we have infused with the power of God or love, that now may know themselves as something new. Almost like a scientist might view the collecting of certain molecules to form other molecules. Because I'm not a scientist, I don't know. Maybe they're atoms, I don't know. I'm seeing this in my mind's eye, where we have all these tiny particles, tiny pieces coming together and forming, being bonded by connections, and now have created another something that acts as a whole, as a unit, a one, but it is made up of several different parts, but now function as one. That's what I'm seeing. So I try to remember what else was being said that I thought I needed to report on. Okay. And it's being reiterated that because we have believed the story of the crucifixion, the way it was given to us, I'm hearing that it was prophesied that a Savior would come. Many great teachers and influencers foretold the birth of a Savior, though that Savior come to teach you in remembrance of your true being, your true divinity, through example and instruction, did come, was birthed. The death of that one was not necessary in the way that you were told. So what I'm understanding by this message is the communication I'm getting is that, and I don't know the Bible well enough to know this, so I'm going to speak to what I'm understanding, is that there were those who said a Savior would come, a Savior would come. But the spilling of blood was a story, the necessity of the death of Jesus the Christ was woven in after the fact, to justify it. So, and I don't know the Bible well enough to know if that's the case, but that's the message I'm receiving, is that there was a foretelling of the birth of Christ. And of course that's true. Christ is birthed all the time on our planet, birthed into human form, because, you know, when a person takes on a human form, it is Christ that lives, that breathes, that operates the form, whether we choose to act as such or not. So there was a foretelling of the birth of the one, the Savior. But Savior in the life and example and teachings, the message, the beginning of awakening on this planet, that is how he was the Savior. But as I'm being shown now, the crucifixion of Jesus was not necessary because the Father says we have never fallen, though we believe we did. So there was no penance due. That's what I heard just now. There was no penance due because there was no reason for it. We had forgotten who we were, and Jesus came to remind us of who we were, to help us remember who we are. But that was not done through the crucifixion of his body. However, he used the crucifixion of his body to show us that death was not real, to break the illusion that when we died, that was it. So we would know that we were eternal beings when he appeared to those after his crucifixion. So there were positives that came out of this, but the children of God have always been the children of God, will always be the children of God without exception. And anything that happens to the human form is irrelevant. It's irrelevant to who we are in truth, because we are that which is unchangeable. It doesn't change. It is eternally perfect as created by the Father, in the likeness and image of that one. And when it speaks of that, it's not talking about the human form, as many may misunderstand. It's talking about who we are in truth, which is I want to say outside of time, exists beyond time, because time is only not even needed, but time is only observed in this experience as a human, and perhaps other experiences that aren't human, but for us, time is a convenience for, I'm hearing solidarity, for cohesion, for planning, organization, things that help us out as a human here. But time itself is not existent at the level of God, because God does not need time. Right, so I'm hearing bits from A Course in Miracles here where it says, time is only relevant, beneficial for the awakening or the remembering of the children of God. So you only need time as long as and it only affects you when you are in your forgetting of who you are in truth. So my understanding right now, what I'm receiving is that when we are present in our truth, and living as the Christ, we are not subject to time nor the adverse effects of time on the physical form. So it's like we step out of time, and that has to do a lot with the aging process and things like that, is what I'm being shown. The aging process of the body, the health of the body. The more time we spend as the Christ living the life, the less influence time has on the physical form. So why that's important, I don't know, but that just came in too. But back to what they were saying here, that the belief in the crucifixion of Jesus being of importance, the actual crucifixion part, has kept us from accepting that we have our worthiness. We have always been worthy. We have always been worthy. If we choose to believe that the death and the blood of Christ was necessary, okay, I remember that now from earlier. So in the sermon that I had overheard, God was saying, if you believe that the blood of another can save you, right? If you believe that the blood of another can save you, he was saying, then you will believe that the killing of another can keep you safe. And how this idea has perpetuated war and strife and killing and all manner of murderous thoughts on this planet. Because if we believe that the blood of one can save us, then we are more inclined to spill the blood of one to keep us safe. And I see how that's very connected. But that was also delivered in that sermon I had overheard while I was driving. So I think that's it. I'm going to try and write down these key points so I can put some kind of title to this thing. Whoever this is for, I hope it, well, I know it'll find you if it needs to. May it uplift the rest of us in whatever way it can. In peace and in love, may it be blessed.